conversation series on branding and communications and changing media landscape presented by The Book. Please present the moderator of this talk, Danielle Sachs, the Fast Company.
Hello. Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. As most of you here know, and the reason why you're here is because we are at this very both exciting, challenging, scary moment in time in which media has been incredibly fragmented. And so if you're a brand trying to find your way and navigate through this new world, it's never been a more challenging time, but also never a more time of more creative opportunities. So here to discuss how to navigate this world, we have a really great panel here today. To my left, we have Jessie McMillan, the Executive Creative Director at Virgin America. And Jessie basically is the creative force behind every touch point at the airline, from the advertisements all the way down to the lighting in the cabin. We have Colleen Stokes, DVP of Digital at Coach, and Colleen is the Creative Director of Everything Digital at the handbag company. And she did note she will not be able to give out free handbags at the end of this discussion.
No, that's all.
And then the other coveted product on stage, Google, we have Ben Jones, Creative Director of the agency team at Google. Ben is a former agency man himself, and in the past year went over to Google and describes himself as the free-range brain for the creative agencies that Google works with. And then all the way at the end, last but not least, we have Robert Green, the SVP of Creative and Digital at Condé Nast Entertainment Group. Robert is doing some really exciting and experimental stuff. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he's a veteran TV and film producer who was hired earlier this year by Condé Nast to develop, produce, and manage the creation of original content for Condé's very iconic magazine brand. So thank you all for being here. The way the panel is going to work is each one of you are going to present some of the fascinating work that you're doing, and then we're going to have what's hopefully an interesting and provocative conversation, and if there's time at the end, we'll be able to open it up to the audience. So Jessie, if you would like to begin?
Sure. So I guess, do I need the clicker? So I just brought some work that we produced last year as part of a kind of broader advertising branding campaign. And excuse the slideshow if the title cards don't, it looks like there might be a formatting issue, but I think it should say the Virgin America experience. But for Virgin America, really doing things differently inside of the cabin and really making the travel journey something different than what people expect is what we've really been about for the last 5 years. And I think that's really evident in our product when if any of you have flown Virgin America, just really taking a look at everything inside the cabin and trying to shake it up and do something that is non-traditional is really important. So everything from the lighting to the materials in the seat backs, having an entertainment system available for every passenger, things like being the first airline to launch fleet-wide Wi-Fi. All of these things really play into that idea of making an experience that's very immersive and that really connects to the things that people are used to being able to do in their everyday life. This just shows a little bit more of the stuff that we've been doing. Uniforms that we relaunched last year with Banana Republic. That was a pretty interesting, fun kind of campaign where we partnered up with another brand that we had been working with. But everything down to the little details, the glass that you get that has a little message in the bottom. Was it as refreshing for you as it was for me? So as part of that, we really look to, in the digital and the advertising work that we do, try and bring that same sense of tactile, immersive, very fun, engaging quality to everything that we're trying to put out there. This is the new terminal at San Francisco, which if you haven't been there is really spectacular. A lounge that we just recently opened up in Los Angeles at LAX. So again, trying to bring that same lighting, texture, color, design to all of the experiences that our guests pass through. And so for us, to try and bring that same visual kind of immersive feeling to the digital work that that we try and do, one of the things that we thought would be great was to try and create an experience, an immersive digital experience that allowed people to travel through and learn a little bit about the experience, but as well connect with some of the things that we're doing. Some of our most frequent flyers that are doing interesting things embedded into this experience. I don't know if there's audio. Doesn't sound like it. So this is just a little video reel. We created a digital experience that was really driven by interactive video, where the user could travel through this experience and navigate a video piece that was really trying to bring to life the amenities that we have in the cabin, whether it's food on demand or music at your seat back or movies. The website didn't do that. Maybe it should have. I think I'm scared to try it again. Well, let's see. So this piece, again, it was trying to bring to life the different amenities like food on demand, video, wireless at your seat back, but in a very kind of more fun, Virgin-esque type of way. These are some visuals of the actual experience. So the whole thing was kind of video, interactive video, where you could scroll through and actually affect the characters that were moving, and you'd travel through things like we had some of our kind of more interesting flyers actually embedded into this video experience. So you see in the second row, the one on the right, that's the founder of Pitchfork, Ryan Schreberg. So he's an avid Virgin fan. He flies a lot. We embedded him into this experience and gave kind of a little profile about his favorite route, what he likes to eat, the movies that he watches. And then what was nice about that was it not only showcased some interesting people that were doing interesting things and were Virgin fans, but allowed them to push the work out to their respective social networks. There were live tweets embedded into the site, so this constant interactivity. And even things like this one here where we had live New York Times and ESPN and stats kind of being embedded into the experience. So trying to bridge this gap between something that someone's interacting with and learning a little bit about the airline, but it's very contextual and relevant, and things are happening right there. And then this work we then used to spin out the rest of our advertising. So outdoor billboards, taking over stations in various transit stations to kind of really immerse the experience in there. And even kicked it off with a live event with Richard Branson, where he was on one of our flights with another one of these kind of interesting flyers, and they tweeted live from the plane, Instagram and Twitter, down into a billboard in Times Square that was connected with the whole launch of this campaign. So really trying to just kind of use all of the tools at our disposal and make things very fun, interactive, and contextual. So that's basically, what I've got.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I am going to take you guys through a much smaller, more confined piece of creative, nothing like what Jesse just walked you through. We are going to walk through a project that just launched, a project called Father's Day, which I'm sure you all know is coming up rather quickly. Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry guys. I was just saying, we're going to walk through a very small, defined project that we do at Coach. These kinds of projects come up every week at least. This is our Father's Day launch. It's live now. It launched on Monday. But before we do that, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the brand, which you may or may not know. Coach was launched in 1941 as a men's-only leatherwear company, inspired by the well-worn leather of a baseball glove. A lot of people don't know this. But because baseball is ingrained in our heritage, every year around Father's Day, we launch a few limited edition items in our what we call Heritage Baseball Collection. So the assignment, which was the same as last year and the year before and the year before, is to create a compelling experience online focusing on gifts for dad and our Heritage Baseball Collection. So what I wanted to walk you through here, the baseball glove is something that we made customized for the baseball collection and a gift for Father's Day. We shot this with an artist who you may know named Steven Sebring. He does a lot of film work right now, and he has this new technology that is 100 cameras in a ring. He's doing artwork where he has dancers in the middle, and he shoots all the cameras off at the same time and captures what he's calling the fourth dimension. His work's really beautiful, and we wanted to see if he could partner with us to do something more on the commercial end. So we gave him a little credit, and you'll see as we go through this that this kind of thinking helps give us some reach into some of our social media platforms, a little more interesting than duplicating the content that we have online. We have these little legs that can reach out. So we also did a collaboration for the Heritage Baseball Collection with War Stick bats.
Two things that I've always been most passionate about in my life would be baseball and making art or design. Design's just in my blood, I feel like. It's just not something that I decided to do. It's just something I've always felt like I needed to do. It's kind of a fever type thing where I get this feeling of I need to make something, I need to make something, I need to make something. And design becomes like a therapy to getting that out of my system. And it's nice because I end up having made something. Where War Stick and Coach really come together and see the world in the same way is that design is about simplicity, and it's about the essential, and it's about creating something beautiful in the most simple way that you can.
So at Coach, we create content always around product. So we have a gift guide that you can see here, but we didn't want it to just be like every other gift guide that's a grid of products, amazing products. We wanted to tell narratives, tell stories around them. So you could see here that the top full screen is where we can explore these little stories. The bat was one of them. But as you scroll down, you do have that typical e-commerce grid that you can purchase anything at any given moment. So we didn't want to hinder the sale, but we did want to make it a little more interesting than just a gift guide. So if we decide to explore the gift guide, we could watch the movie that you just saw a brief intro to. You could go through all the bats is one item. Wallets, which are part of our Heritage Baseball Collection, we tried to put a lens of baseball. No, you don't get free tickets with the wallets, but that would be a good idea. And here again, you can shop from this interactive experience. We wanted to show our Heritage Baseball bags, which are made from the glove tan leather we talked about earlier, but we wanted to do it in a more fun way, so this is just a morphing technique. And here again are the baseball gloves that we saw earlier, and you can see these one at a time. And again, you could purchase them right from this. We are making a leather-coated radio, specifically for this occasion.
Here's the pitch, the 1-1er, fastball, and caught. He's belted into left field, and back goes Sanders, way back to the wall.
And lastly, we're making a cut-to-size belt that nobody understood, so we did a stop motion to explain. So again, just little fun ways of putting very small narratives around product to create that emotional connection and allow people to like just think about them a little more than just a picture on a website. So from there you can see we have the ability to use this content in our social platforms. So here we could show the video on our YouTube channel. We have the assets, of course, on Facebook. We also have a Facebook fan event where we're asking people to submit images of themselves with stories about their dad and how baseball was part of their life growing up. And from that, we also have a Pinterest board around our Heritage Baseball products, and we're also using some of those Facebook fan images. Instagram is starting to become a bigger thing for us, and for all of these things that we create, we like to Instagram from them. So for instance, we Instagrammed live from the making of the War Stick video. We Instagrammed from Steven Sebring's show at the Armory a couple weeks ago called Revolution, where he used this technology to make all of his artwork. We connected it back to our baseball gloves rotating in space. And then we're also putting some of the Facebook fan event images out on our Instagram channel. We also use the same content in rich media display ads. It's pretty self-explanatory. The whole idea around baseball, though, did give us an opportunity to reach out to space that we wouldn't normally reach out to, like sports section or Major League Baseball site, ESPN, which is kind of fun. You don't normally see pink Coach bags there. And then, of course, at the end, we just did a very designated email campaign around this effort just to get more traction. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Colleen. Ben?
All right, I'm Ben Jones from Google. The fun part about my job and the impossible part about my job is all of the things that Google is. So we're this massive global database of intentions. We know what people want all the time, around the world, and essentially real time. But we're also YouTube, 500 hours of content uploaded every minute, and thousands of videos in a way that makes us the second largest search engine in the world to ourselves, and third largest social network after Facebook and ourselves. And the largest cable network for people 18 to 34. And we're in hundreds of millions of Android phones. And so we live in people's lives in this crazy, crazy way. And the way that we think about the work that we do is how do we connect people to the things in our world that are magic? Those things are magic. They're becoming increasingly magical. They're not about technology. And so how do you make these things feel magical to people? And a big piece of that is getting other people to make awesome stuff with our stuff. Even at Google, we think no matter how many smart people work for you, and god damn if there aren't some smart people who work for us, more smart people work other places. There are more brains outside, and so our job, our desire is to connect people to our magic in a way that gets people to make things that are awesome that we wouldn't have thought of. So this is how we think about it. Our job, connect users to magic, and some principles in terms of that. Focus on one real user. This is a thing that we see people make mistakes about all the time. Oh, they're like this, it's this person, it's a composite, this demographic. We believe very strongly if you can make magic for one person, that magic will spread to everybody else. So you think of the Dear Sophie ad that started as a web video and became a Super Bowl spot, right? That's one dad and one experience, and yet it's a thing that touches us all universally. The second, works not words. No one would believe us if we say things. We have to make things. Everything that we do is about making a thing that is magical, making magical experiences. And the final of these, we think amazing is always on the other side of yes. You have to take risks. You have to do new things. We create products that fail all the time. We fail out loud, visibly, publicly, all the time, because the amazing work for us comes out on the other side. I'm going to talk about an initiative, and actually going to get up for this because we have an interactive-ish piece. We're doing an initiative now called Art Copy Code. This is this year's version of Rebrief. So we're reaching out to the creative community to say advertising and marketing can be done in a new way. And we've created as a part of this a series of experiments. The first one I'm going to show you is actually the trailer for this experience. So
Today, as in today, as in right now. It's a pretty exciting time to be doing what we're all doing. Because people like this, and people like that, are now sitting together with folks like this. And the work they're making isn't like the ads we're used to. It's stuff like this, these, and whatever this is. It's connecting the real world to the web, telling more personal stories with data, and using this stuff to make our lives easier and more fun. And wow, robots. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time. And imagine what we could make next. Welcome to art, copy, and code.
So not just a trailer, but a trailer that uses real data in real time and knows we're watching this in New York, it knows the date, it knows the time. The examples that you see, the art directors and copywriters, all of the projects are dynamically compiled out of the database of thumbnails that you saw, so every time you see it, it's new. Every time you see it, it's different. Every location you watch it from is different. And for us, that's the beginning of thinking about what this experiment is, right? We just use a CAN database so we could create the example, but what happens if it's live data mixed with real data? The clips are in real time. What stories can you tell with all of the behavioral information that we have? We say internally, data is waiting for its Scorsese, right? We're waiting for this storytelling imagination that can figure out how to take this, which is a little tiny experiment, and tell an amazing, incredible, moving story that is both universal and personal for all of us. So that's our Copy and Code, the initiative overall. And then within that are a series of experiments. The first of these, the talking shoe. I don't know if you guys have seen or heard this. It's a shoe with a set of sensors built in, attached to a language engine. So as you walk around or run around, the shoe essentially talks trash to you, right? Go faster, go slower. It's happier when you walk. It's even happier when you run. It knows when you rest. And for us, this isn't about the Internet of Things. Yeah, it's cool. There's a sensor and a language engine. And it's pretty cool that you could actually program different personalities into the shoe. But where it starts to be interesting is these objects connect to each other. What if two people are wearing the shoe? What if Kevin Durant and LeBron James have the shoes on and the shoes are talking trash to each other? What if Kevin Durant's shoes are talking trash to him because LeBron James is kicking his ass, right? That's where this experiment is the beginning of what we hope will be a very interesting set of objects that are made not by us, but by other people. It's data, it's programming, it's storytelling, all mixed up together. And for us, as I said, it's about one real user. So for the talking shoe, it's Adidas, right? It's not about Google marketing itself. Who is the user? How is Adidas going to market its brand? The second experiment is called Smileage. It's for Volkswagen. Volkswagen is trying to make drives more social and more fun, and so we partnered with them as part of this initiative to create this app, which we call Smileage. I'll show you how that works.
I guess that's how it begins. You see something and you want it. I saw you smiling at me like you knew things that I needed to know. They say that all that it takes is a moment to fall. This moment with you keeps on growing, keeps going strong. But I think it's gonna be alright. Just trust me now, I know. And I'm not trying to stay the whole night, just trying to make you miss me when I go, 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 go. Just trying to make you miss me when I go, 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 go. We're all looking for ways to be happy and meaning. Call me crazy, but maybe I think you could be it. And I mean it 'cause it feels so good. just making sure you'll miss me when I go, 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 go.
Not focused on a utility, but focused on a story that knits together things you're doing anyway. Your phone talking to the car, your car talking to other cars, harnessing the social stuff that you're going to do anyway, the pictures that you're taking, the posting, the ways that people are responding, all in a wrapper that makes sense for the brand, right? Volkswagen wants to be the brand that makes driving more social and more fun. So for us, for our copy code, it's a little complicated, right? We want to have a brand do a thing, and we're doing it with an agency. In this case, 72 and Sunny is the agency. We're trying to get them to make more magical stuff with this world of materials, of tools that we have. We're not a content company, right? We want other people to make magical content, amazing things, amazing experiences, and we just want to help you. So hopefully come make magic with us.
Which is, in some ways, is the perfect bridge to Robert.
I'm a magician. So we all know that to a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And I'm a storyteller, so to me, everything looks like narrative. There are really two kinds of narrative. There's the Greek kind, which has been the same for 2,000 years or more, 3,000 years. And that's been my milieu for a lot of my career. And there's also the new sort of narrative, which is shorter, pithier, doesn't necessarily have a beginning, middle, and end, but gives you an emotion, as we saw from the Virgin and the Coach pieces. And I've been tasked with taking a 100-year-old company, Condé Nast, and helping them translate what they've been doing, the narratives they've been telling for 100 years, and bring them into a new space, which is video, an online video, both in the Greek sense of stories that have a beginning, middle, and end, and in the new non-traditional, non-linear storytelling sense of just some fun thing that you'd want to share with your friends. I hate sizzle reels. I think they're awful. I think they are hiding what you actually have done in the good parts, and you shouldn't just see the good parts. Having said that, let me now show you a sizzle reel of what we've been doing. So there you go. We're making lots of different stuff. We're in production right now on 30 shows. We are launching Vanity Fair in about a month. We'll be launching Teen Vogue and Epicurious in Style later in the summer. So we'll probably be in production at some point on about 50 or 60 shows at once. Slightly daunting task. We do and don't work with brands in the sense that the brands that I'm working with are those brands you just saw. Glamour is a brand. GQ is a brand. Vogue is a brand. Wired is a brand. They're also now all networks. So you can go to video.wired.com or youtube.com/wired and you can experience Wired as if it were a TV network like Home and Garden. You can also think of it as a curator of a particular kind of information. In the case of Wired, if you go to Wired, you're going there for a reason, and everybody in this room knows what the reason is, and they know that if they're going to Wired, they're not going to Vogue. And if they're going to Vogue, they're not going to Wired, and there's a reason why. There will be different content on each of those two different sites because they have created a brand for themselves that suggests that, just as you would not go to Virgin America to buy a handbag. But what if Virgin America wanted you to buy handbags? Part of my task is to convince you that Wired, which you probably think of as a magazine brand, is a place to go watch a video. So part of what we're doing is we are spending an enormous amount of money letting you know out there in the world that a new thing you can do with this wonderful brand, which is Wired, is go watch a video. Or in the case of Virgin America, if they wanted you to buy a handbag, they would have to tell you that they're selling handbags, and they would have to tell you a lot over and over until you really believe them and you are willing to go to a place called Virgin America to buy a handbag. So that's part of the task that's in front of me right now, is making sure that people understand that Condé Nast, which was once a static thing, a print brand, and each of its individual brands, Wired, Vogue, etc., which were all print brands, are now this new thing, which is video. The reason that this is so important for us and that we've had to do this is because people want to experience narrative this way. And the proof is in the YouTube pudding, where you see the 500 hours, it's 500 hours every minute, is that right? Daunting. And, you know, 1 billion views in the month of February for the first time ever, and one video that got 1 billion views. Clearly, people have made the choice. All of the customers to whom we are speaking, all of the stakeholders in this, which is the people who spend money on all of the products that we either represent or sell here, have decided with their feet and their fingers and their eyeballs to go to this new medium and experience this new medium. And all of us have to reckon with that. Condé Nast, in my opinion, very much to its credit, has made a huge investment in trying to make this work. And I have been tasked with hopefully making it work for them. And the proof will be in the pudding in the next year or two. So that's me.
Wow, I think, thank
can swing at that. No pun intended. I think that brands are an energy, and either that energy feels true or it doesn't feel true. And so yeah, I don't think that video or text or live experience matters. I think that every time I touch a brand, does that brand feel true? Does it give me energy? Do I get a little shock that says yes? And I think, as we work with brands, that's the thing that they need to put out there and that they need to feel, and understand that people are swimming in this sea of energy all the time, right? We go in and talk to brands all the time, and they say, oh, our brand stands for this, and here's our messaging hierarchy, and every time you hit it, it sounds the same. And I say there's no ground there, right? You're not a tower anymore, you're swimming, we're all swimming. And so you just have to be this energy.
Yeah, I think for us at Virgin America, kind of along those same lines, we're just trying to make sure that we've got a lot of different things that we're trying out in our kind of guest's view at any given time. And so whether that's, doing interesting things inside the cabin or, video pieces like we've been talking about, there's so many, with this amount of content that we need to keep up with all the time, making sure that you've got lots of projects that you're engaged in and that they all are contextual and relevant to the people that you're talking to, and that they can do things with them, that they can share them and interact with them. One of the things I notice all the time now is we are this kind of multitasking society now. Like flying on the planes more than ever now, I look at people and they've got their seat back, CNN on, they're on Wi-Fi on their laptop, maybe they've got their iPod plugged in with their music going, and it's just like this insanity. And I'm like, you're on a plane. Before you used to just sit back and put some things on and try and sleep for an hour, and now people are just like trying to get everything that they can done. So I think having lots of content out there and experimenting, trying things, like we heard earlier, I think being okay to fail, I think is super important, that you have to make sure that you're just doing stuff, and if it doesn't all work, it's okay, because you have to keep making new things.
Well, I think that raises an important point, which is, in the old media world, you work on a few campaigns a year, and you work on those for months, and now it's all about, with fragmented media, it comes, there's so many, you have to create so much content. Some is going to work, and some isn't going to work. And so, how do you, in your case, Robert, how do you deal with experimentation? How do you deal with these, the Anna Wintours of the world, with their very successful, perfectly packaged magazines, and then you're like, well, we're going to make 30 different series, and some are going to work, and some aren't, and some are going to be perfectly glossy, and some aren't.
It's really hard. They're all different kinds of perfectionists, and one of the great things about all the Condé Nast magazines is that perfection is demanded of all the people who work there, and they do their best to deliver. And you have it exactly right. My message when I go in is, let's give it a shot and see if it's good enough, which doesn't always resonate, and so we have a back and forth and a very healthy dialogue, and I think they're starting to learn that what it means to be a video brand actually is different than what it means to be a print brand. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with your point about just finding that yes moment. I actually think in certain cases, the transliteration of one thing into another thing fundamentally changes what that thing is. I'll give a very brief example. Magazines are static. They comment on the world in a way that when you experience them, they're talking about things that have happened or things that are going to happen right now in this magazine in front of you, and you cannot do anything else but experience them that way, which forces your brain to reckon with a magazine in a very specific way. When I go online and I reckon with Wired.com or with the video that I'm making for Wired, one of the things I'm trying to do is perhaps comment on the world as it is right now, as your video showed for the art copy piece. And that is a completely different way of expressing the Wired brand than going and looking at a magazine. Likewise for Vogue. So I am actually going into these meetings with people and in part saying to them, let's reconsider what it means to be you. And that obviously is a very difficult conversation that will be ongoing for the next several years.
I'm sorry, Colleen, did you want to? Yeah, there is that notion of real time and spontaneity, and I think for those of you advertising junkies, just in the past week alone, if you follow the JCPenney Hitler tea kettle, does anyone follow that? And here JCPenney, among all their problems, as if they didn't have enough, they come out with this greatly designed new tea kettle, Michael Graves, and then one person happens to notice on a billboard that the silhouette looks like Hitler, and suddenly that's the conversation. They have to pull it from their shelves. It's selling on eBay. And so as a brand existing in this very spontaneous world where one consumer voice change the conversation. How are you navigating that?
Well, I think it's difficult. I think one of the things that we try and do at the airline is to not get ourselves too freaked out, because I think the conversation does move on quickly, and even though in that moment it feels like the most intense, crazy story ever, that 2 seconds later somebody else has got a new story, and so people's, I think, ability to forgive is maybe just inherently the fact that they're digesting so much content in media all the time that they just surely don't remember what happened 2 days ago.
J.C. Penney could have said, "Oh, that's nice. We don't give a shit," and it would have been fine, and their lives would have been much better. But it's an old way of doing business. There's this inertia that people have where they feel like they're in the box they've always been in, and they should never leave it. And the proper response to a PR debacle is what Tylenol did in 1981, and we must do what Tylenol did because we all learned it in business school. So that, whatever they did, I read about it, I'm going to do it, as opposed to allowing for the fact that we now live in a flow. We don't live in a series of static moments. It's just a flow, and the river will keep rolling, and you'll be fine, and people will buy your Michael Graves teapot.
But it's interesting because I think we're allowing so much power to that audience, with whether it's getting involved in co-creation with our audience, or things like when The Gap, not so long ago tried to relaunch their logo and has this fury of like people saying, "Why did you change this thing?" And obviously they put a lot of money into doing that, and then make this kind of veering left turn back to what they were doing. But we're allowing so much power to this audience when maybe it's not really warranted yet.
I mean, I don't know that it's a choice.
Yeah.
It seems to just be sort of the brave new world we're in. But I think Colleen and I were talking about, there's this sense that every brand knows that they need to be on social media platforms. They need to be on Facebook, they need to be on Twitter, they need to cultivate as large of a following as possible. But then once you get there, what the hell do you do with this audience? And so I would love to get your opinions on what are brands supposed to be? You have this beautiful imagery that you create. I mean, is it all about just like feeding content, or what are you doing that's creating value?
I want to back up just a second, and I'll get to that if you don't mind. Back to talking about being so different with the print and the new place where we are in this digital space. Coaches, I don't want to say easier, but yeah, maybe a lot easier than where you guys come from, because we have one audience who is pretty well defined, and we know what they want. They want the product. I mean, we do hear on Facebook a lot that they don't want the product and they want it to change, which is what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we're more of a push company than like taking the information back. And I think that's okay. But what we're learning right now is that this print, this static advertising that gets put into a magazine and then stays there for an entire season isn't necessarily a bad thing if you think about it right. So, for instance, right now we're working on a campaign for next year, and we're trying to conceptualize the print campaign so that it's thought through in every other aspect or touch point of the brand. And it might just be a hint to a story that has legs that the website has to launch every 2 weeks. The store windows have to change every month. The print matters out there once a quarter. So what is that print story that still hints to all these other changes, which is sort of leads into like where you were going? And how do you think about the bigger idea in a way that I think the social and the digital platforms do have that ability to make it that much stronger. And I think the print could still, I don't want to say lead, but still has a really important place for it. But back to feeding the content, we still have to do that. I think it's just kind of coming up with what that is in a smarter way that's done way more in advance, at least conceptually, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of brands have to answer that question to you when you're somebody who's sitting in my seat, or maybe in many of yours as well, which is, what is it that you want with all this stuff? Is it just to do it because it's being done, or is there some specific goal, some specific call to action at the end of this experience that you're trying to lead people to? And I sit in a position where I get to talk to a lot of different brands. They approach us as a distributor, they approach us as a production company, they approach us as a lot of different things. And at the end of all those meetings, that is the final question for me is, do you want people to buy more widgets? Do you want people to like widgets generally? Do you want people to like you? Do you want people to think you're cool? What is it about this? And every answer is different, which I think is kind of fun.
What are some of the answers that you from specific brands?
Well, specifically, you know, Intel has made a huge push into content this year. They've done a huge deal with Vice. And they'll probably, I'm sure we'll end up working with them in some capacity. I certainly hope so. And I think Intel has made it very clear that the reason that they're spending tens of millions of dollars on content is because they want people to buy more Intel chips. So it's very, as a person trying to figure out how that works, it's difficult to get from A to B, but Intel feels strongly that that's what's going to happen. On the other hand, American Express wants people to know that American Express is now a content portal. It's not about the credit card. It's about going to American Express's newly launched IPTV channel, to the AmericanExpress.com content site. They want people to know that they make really cool stuff, that they're associated with things like the Vampire Weekend show they just did, that Steve Buscemi directed. All this stuff is really important to them, separate from the credit card. So it's a different answer for everybody.
And so I think this raises this larger question. You often hear brands now saying, you know, we're not only in our core business, but we're also a media company. And do you think, you guys, are any of you experiencing that within your own brands? And do you think that's not authentic to every company, or not even useful to every company? Or do you think that every brand really does need to start thinking of themselves as a content or media company?
I mean, I don't know if it's relevant to every brand. I think there's interesting stories to tell at almost every brand, and how you do that is probably the question. I know for Virgin America, we do kind of consider ourselves, you know, not just an airline, but somewhat of an entertainment kind of lifestyle brand, and just in the sense that we've got every day multiple captive audiences flying around the country that we want to supply something interesting to their experience. So whether that's, you know, a great range of movies to select from, or cool information about the stuff that we're doing as a brand, you know, new cities that we're launching, or partnerships that we have going, or whatever it is, like providing interesting content for those guests and making sure that they're engaged and enjoying their flight, that the journey is not something that they, you know, hate, like they're getting onto a cattle car, but they want to look forward to, and that's why they might fly us over American or United, or somebody that doesn't offer those things is really important. So
it goes back to that kind of design experience, and content is one of the
yeah, definitely.
I think if your product is astonishingly better, objectively, you don't need to be a media company. And other than probably Apple of 18 months ago, I'm not sure that I put any brands in that category, you know, maybe Bugatti. But I think that for everybody else, you at least have to reckon with the reality that people are experiencing a media environment, that people who are passionate about your brand want to engage, they want to have stories, they want to dig in, they want to know the bat maker, they want to know the history, they want to know where their product comes from. We're just hungry for stories, and you need to live in that environment, whether you choose to play or not.
So, you know, branded content was this thing that I don't even know if people use that term, how much people use that term anymore, but it was a term not too long ago. How do you think that whole notion of what branded content is has changed? You know, now it's like if every brand has to produce great narrative, because they're all creating a YouTube channel and there's 500 hours being uploaded every minute. Like, the great thing about competition is that the bar just continues to get, you know, the bar is only going to get higher for the kinds of content that's out there. But so what is branded content now? What is it supposed to look like?
I watched that coach video or the preview of it, and it just looked like a great piece of content about a really interesting person. So that's the bar. I would watch more of it because it's good, and this person seems interesting, and the Coach Association is an afterthought to me that maybe sticks in some part of my limbic system, and somebody can measure it, and that's a good thing for Coach. I've been making the argument I've been doing this sort of stuff for probably 6 or 7 years now, where I sit in rooms with brands, and the conversation starts with, hey, so we want to do a thing. We'll say the name of the product 16 times in 2 minutes. There'll be 7 product shots. We have to show the front and the back. And it ends with me saying, we're not going to do any of that. But at the end, we'll say, special thanks to this wonderful brand for supporting an independent web series, which is what they actually want. They just don't know that's what they want. They get in their own way, and getting them out of their own way and getting them to allow themselves to know that a positive association with their brand is the thing that they really are after, that's the battle.
And do you think, because I wonder, it's kind of along those lines, now people can figure out all that other information on their own really quickly if they need to, and you can kind of point them directly there from this piece of content? You don't have to show the...
I say flip that around. What they can do is they can smell bullshit.
Yeah.
and they don't like it. And they'll go on YouTube and they'll comment on your YouTube page until you turn the comments off. And I've seen that more than once with brands where they're like, wait, all these people get to weigh in real time on what we did, and they don't like that we had a 6-second long shot of our stupid thing floating there. No offense to any brands anywhere. That's just, people see through it. It's not, people have been either, I don't know if they've been self-taught or how it's happened. People don't want that kind of information given to them in that way anymore. There's a great website where they can get all that information. Now you've put them in front of a video. The video isn't supposed to serve the same purpose as the website, and which I think is really effective with the coach site, and I really like it because the video is doing something different than the site. It's telling me a really nice story that also happens, as you said, to be related to the thing that I could ultimately buy.
And Coach only makes content around products right now. And that's something that's a little bit different from what you're saying, but I feel back to this like content, do people need to start creating content because that's the trend? I don't think Coach, and I bet there are other product brands like that, we'll never be in the content business. We just won't. We're in the product business. Now, if the story that we need to tell about the product is best served in video, then video is what we'll use. If it's best served in, I don't know, a photo shoot, then that's probably what we'll use. Or an editorial collaboration with a magazine, then that's what we'll use. But it's never, someone once said, well, we have a YouTube channel. This is a person that no longer works for Coach. We have a YouTube channel, so we have to start making video. And I was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. Like, because you have the telephone, do you have to talk more? Like, I don't know, it just seems weird. So we make content when we feel like we need to tell a story, and we use the medium to put the content, make the content with when it is the most useful. So I don't know if that kind of goes along with what you're saying. Sort of, maybe not. We should talk, though.
I'd like to open it up to the audience.
If you want to do a Coach film, we should talk.
Yes. I mean, you do. It's measurable.
I mean, Ben, you were just giving us an interesting example, more personal example.
Yeah, I've got a 13-year-old. She was home for Christmas this last year. 2 weeks solid at home. She did not turn on the TV one time. She did not want to go to the movies one time. Never. All YouTube. YouTube was the first place she started, the last place she went. A lot of Netflix, but she doesn't read magazines. She never turns on the TV. And so, have you lost them? Yeah, you've lost them. You got to live where they are.
Yep. Yeah, same with my kids. They don't care about the TV that we expensively wall-mounted.
My daughter's hard to get on her laptop. She's on her phone the whole time.
Oh yeah, so that, I think this would be kind of a nice place to end if anyone, does anyone else have a question? This is more of a design question, but I know it was something that was, it was a burning question Colleen had, which was, if you're designing any kind of interface at this point, do you start with PC or mobile? If anyone has strong opinions on that.
I think you start with mobile probably in the sense that you want to make it work for mobile. And you know, a lot of stuff with like responsive design and just the ways that people are trying to do less duplicative development and more development that can adapt and work for whatever environment it's on, I think is, to me, where people are trying to go. I don't think the ideal viewing experience is ever on your little screen, but you might start there and end somewhere else. So I think it has to try and work as well as possible across the different platforms.
Go ahead.
So I think that we as Google, certainly as YouTube, were taken a little bit by surprise by how quickly video viewing has grown on mobile. We started a massive redesign, which we're in the middle of now, and when we started, a quarter of all video views were on mobile. And we thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. Now it's about 40% in the US. 40% of video views are on mobile. So whether it's optimal or not, that's where people are experiencing it. I think that you start with story. I think you start with the one real user. Where are they going to encounter it? Too often when people start with mobile, they're thinking mobile, and so mobile becomes utility, and it becomes a thing that you do as opposed to what's a story that I'm allowing you to experience or bringing you along in.
I've twice in the past year been involved in the launch of a brand new video player, initially with HuffPost Live, which was a streaming player where the video was one piece of a bigger experience on the page. So the video, though it was created in responsive design, mattered a little bit less than the entire experience you were having. For Conde, the team from Vivo.com was brought in by Fred Santarpia, my colleague who's the chief digital officer, to create the most beautiful video experience, video-first experience they possibly could. So they also used responsive design, which really means, to those of you who don't know, if you're watching something on your PC and then you go to watch it on the tablet or you go to watch it on your phone, you can change the shape and size of the video experience with your fingers, with a squeeze. The people who actually do the back-end programming don't have to make something different for the non-duplicative work component. But part of what led us into making the kind of design that we did for what we're doing for Condé Nast is that people experience Condé Nast as having very beautiful imagery, and we wanted our video player to be very beautiful. On YouTube, we use the YouTube player, which is a little bit more utilitarian, so it's a different experience and maybe not quite as visually arresting an experience, although an excellent one nonetheless. But yeah, we were definitely led by the idea that it had to be right for the particular brands for whom we were making it. If that makes sense.
And quickly, I just want to touch on the reason that question came up, and this, I think this is so fascinating. Coach is moving as a brand so quickly into international and Asian markets, and we're just learning that the percentage of users on a PC is so much smaller than the users in these emerging markets. They're going straight to smartphones or straight to tablet. They don't even own computers. So the first touch point of our brand, the first time they'll ever learn about us, is probably on a smartphone for the majority of people. So it just brings a big question as to how quickly everything's changing and how you have to rethink the design.
That's why this is the future of phones. Even though it's ridiculous and giant, and every time somebody sees it, they laugh at me, the fact of the matter is I can experience all this great stuff on this better than you can on an iPhone. And there will be more of these and less of those in the future, mark my words. The phablet.
That was product placement by Google for Android. Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to thank everyone